They have now put out a forecast of when the Chinese economy will overtake that of the United States.
China.
The United States is going to China and saying, we want you to commit economic suicide just like Japan did. Well, you can imagine what the Chinese are saying. They're laughing. They're thinking, are you guys joking?
President Barack Obama made an unusual visit to the Pentagon on Thursday to announce a new blueprint for a modern U.S. force with a view to fighting future conflicts in an age of tight budgets.
The tide of war is receding, but the question that this strategy answers is what kind of military will we need long after the wars of the last decade are over?
The U.S. military of 2020 will focus more on the Asia-Pacific region with an eye toward the rising power of China.
The United States has become accustomed to having a sort of sphere of influence that goes right up to the China coast. And as China comes out and develops a greater defense capacity, it threatens our military supremacy.
Our agenda today, embodied in the documents that we have just released, reflects the breadth and depth of our alliance.
Celebrating their 50 years of alliance, the United States and Japan are seeking greater influence in regional security. Clinton saying China's naval activities are creating tensions in the region. For China, it's an arm extended too far. The country voiced its most direct warning to Washington on Wednesday. Chinese Vice Foreign Minister Cui Diankai urged the United States to leave the South China Sea dispute to the claimant states. And U.S. involvement may make the situation worse.
I wonder how many American public and even the Chinese public and even the world citizens are aware the United States of America has continued to encircle the China soon after the collapse of Soviet Union and Eastern Bloc, militarily encircle the China. As Americans are saying, it's the strategic competitor or the most troublesome object the U.S. has to deal with in global agendas.
I happen to think that the communist Chinese government will end up on the ash heap of history if they do not change their virtues.
We have to have China understand that, like everybody else on the world stage, they have to play by the rules.
I think the war on terror is wearing out for them. It's been very profitable, but they don't win the wars. You see, if you're a superpower and you have to be in Iraq for 8 years, and the only way you can win is to put the insurgents on the U.S. military payroll and pay them to stop fighting. And if you're in Afghanistan for 11 years and you can't defeat a few thousand Taliban armed with AK-47s, then your whole reputation as a superpower starts evaporating. They got to have a new enemy, and so it's going to be China. They don't want a real war, they want a Cold War. See, the most profitable conflict was the Cold War with the Soviets, because everybody knew they weren't going to fight it because there wouldn't be anything left. But the Soviet threat was good for 4 or 5 decades of unlimited military spending, of unlimited CIA power. And the war with the hot war in the Middle East, it's not working for them. It hurts their reputation. It demoralizes the troops. Look, the suicides exceed the battle casualties. So they got to have a new Cold War, and the only real person they can pick on now is China. And that's why we had the naval exercises with Philippines a week or so ago. That's why we're building a new naval base in South Korea on an island. That's why we're sending Marines into Asia and Australia. That's why Hillary Clinton declared the South China Sea to be an area of American national interest. They want a long-term Cold War because they can forever hype the Chinese threat as to why they got to have a bigger defense budget and more power. So I think that's where it's moving. That's why they're kind of shifting the emphasis. Now, the problem with them getting away from the Middle East is Israel, because Israel's still determined that they attack Syria and Iran. And if Israel succeeds in having us attack Syria and Iran, then we may never get out of the Middle East, or we may come heads to head with China and Russia in a hot type of conflict. And also, you see, they now have the country at odds with itself. We are as split among ourselves as the Romans were in their last years. And so a country that internally split and also now increasingly fearful of their own government is not a very strong country to be taking on China. So I think they're headed for a lot of surprises. And I don't know when the dollar goes or when the power of the United States collapses. I don't know when it's going to happen. But nothing that they're doing really furthers our future success. It's all at the expense of our future success.
I think we can benefit from trade with China. And I want certainly to continue cultivating a constructive relationship with the Chinese government, but we're going to continue to be firm in insisting that they operate by the same rules that everybody else operates on.